I guess we can say this is where we left off. At the end of last session, we had House Bill 698, and we were one vote shy of passing the bill. And what I wanted to do this year is drop off some of the things that through the process were challenging, and at the last minute, like Neighborhood Assistance Act and things like that, were problematic. So I guess we can say this is part good. And what is in this bill, 1498, is picking up again where we left off, continuing the discussion, hoping to get it over to the Senate so that they can take the time that they need. And that was part of our problem last year. The House didn't fully appreciate how much time the Senate needs for their deliberative process. So, having said that, here's, let me say, there's nothing new in it. All we've done here is taken some things out. What is, however, in the bill are items, incentives that we vetted over the past 3 to 5 years and have been passed numerous times by our committee, the House, the committee and Senate, committee as a whole, and just haven't gotten across the finish line because we get hung up on tax credit issues. So what's in this bill are data storage centers, land assemblage piece, the distressed land area assemblage, wood energy, giving a tax credit for the production of processed wood products, low-income housing tax credit cap lower, grape and wine growers tax credit, historic tax credits, the Freight Forwarders Missouri Export Incentive Act, and angel investors. These are all essentially the same language as in 698.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Tracy King, here representing the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we'd like to go on record in support of House Bill 1498. The legislation actually includes several provisions within the Missouri Chamber's agenda that's been there for several years, and we believe are very important to move Missouri's economy forward. Within that, you have the incentives for freight forwarders, data centers, and also the angel tax credits. And so I think I've talked to you over the last 5 years about most of those that we're supportive of, and I've included to be handed out in written testimony just a brief summary. I want to talk about data centers just for a little bit because I know there's some others that will talk about some of the other pieces here. But you know, we've talked about what a data center is, why it's important to Missouri, and why it's important to incentives. So if I can just be brief and just remind us how we got here with the data center legislation. And you know, it originally started out to be a sales tax exemption to try to treat data centers the same as we treat manufacturers, so that anything that's used or produced in the data center would be exempt. There were a lot of concerns both in the House and the Senate that that would be too costly. We couldn't really put a number on it, and really we wouldn't be taking any sales tax that we're not currently get by incentivizing data centers here. But in an effort to try to move the legislation forward, we worked on some compromise language, which in turn created a rebate. So the data centers will actually pay the taxes up front, and then once they meet jobs and capital investment requirement, and they guarantee the state a 1-to-1 return on investment, then they could get a rebate of the sales taxes that they pay. So this guaranteed the state would not lose $1 on the incentives for data centers. It guaranteed that there would be jobs in capital investment. And at the time, it was Director Kerr who was involved in that data center compromise, and he ran some numbers through RIMI, and he came up with what a 1-to-1 ROI would look like for a data center. And those are somewhat input into the legislation, but there is provisions in there to say that if you don't meet that job and capital investment requirement, that you can still apply to the Department of Economic Development, and if your project plan guarantees the state a 1-to-1 ROI, then you can also get incentives. So we think that this is This is a positive move forward. Again, the data center industry is big. For the state of Missouri, it's just for the United States, $30 billion in investments is going to be happening over the next few years, and it's actually happening now, and then we're missing out on it, and we're losing it to other states that already have these things in place. And again, I just want to highlight the Chamber's support for Angel tax credit legislation that we're very supportive of, as well as the St. Louis, the freight forwarders legislation to help promote St. Louis to be an international cargo hub.